Barbara and Susan investigate the large footprint in the ice outside the TARDIS. Barbara is hoping what she's heard about men with big feet is true, while Susan is hoping to be able to answer Richard Herring's emergency question number 4. Oh, here comes Sherlock Ian to rain piddle on their chips.
Well, it could be a perfectly ordinary footprint, Susan. And the sun's melted the edges and made it look a bit bigger.
The Doctor's very pleased with himself for seemingly getting them to Earth, conveniently forgetting the surreal nightmare he just put everyone through. As they speculate as to where they are, Barbara misses a golden opportunity to deliver a classic dad joke.
Where do you think we could be? In the Alps?
Oh, it could be the Andes. Himalayas. Roof of the world.
The roof of the world.
The Doctor angrily informs everyone that the ship is inexplicably out of action. Well, inexplicably if you discount what the insanity of the trip here probably did to the poor old girl. Ian rather optimistically says he'll look for fuel. His confident tone suggests he's expecting to find some sort of intergalactic service station somewhere on the mountaintop. Susan looks at the Doctor the way a hungry dog looks at a chain of sausages. Perhaps this only looks alien and weird to our human eyes. It could also explain this. As they investigate, Barbara starts to weaken in the rarefied atmosphere. Ian continues on ahead as she rests, only to be startled by a hairy apparition, which vanishes before Ian sees it. They head back to the ship, where the Doctor is tinkering with a piece of equipment. He says he'll have to build a new one, probably because his cack-handed Polkin has completely knackered this one. Barbara tells of the hairy thing she saw, only for bloody Ian to go from Sherlock to Skilly and then take a drive up Gaslight Avenue. Susan sees a man watching them and screams. Ian, rather troublingly, referring to him as it, calls for them to follow as he may lead them to shelter. Following the figure, Ian still using it, they run into a group of people, prompting a swift pronoun change from Ian. A suddenly more polite Ian asks for shelter, only to be on the receiving end of some dehumanising bigotry.
In these parts live evil spirits who take our likeness to deceive us and then lead us to our deaths. Let us therefore destroy these evil spirits before they destroy us.
Fortunately, white European guy appears to stop the situation getting bloody. He says the doctor has mountain sickness. Symptoms include irascibility, tiredness and loss of concentration. He must have been suffering from it for weeks. The travellers are taken to a tent and served hot soup. Susan and Barbara start to deduce who the European guy is, but are rudely interrupted by Ian giving an impromptu science lesson on the boiling point of water in a thin atmosphere.
Cold can't affect the heat of the flame, sir. The liquid boils at a lower temperature because there's so little air up here.
You mean the air is responsible?
Well, the lack of it. Just as the lack of it is responsible for the doctor's mountain sickness.
Sod off, Ian. The historicals are the purview of Barbara. Barbara is finally able to get back on the subject and guesses correctly that the European guy is Venetian and mint-smelling explorer Marco Polo. The doctor subtly gets Ian back for stepping on Barbara's educational toes.
That's Charlton. Chesterton.
Marco introduces his own companions of Pink Cho, a teenage girl, and the warlord Tigana, whose descendants will undoubtedly reach Australia at some point. Polo tells them he's travelling to Shang 2, the bigger, gaudier follow-up to Chang 1. He sorts out sleeping arrangements, the two young girls together for maximum shenanigans, all the men together for maximum homoeroticism, and Barbara, well, on her own for maximum onanism. Marco tells them it's 1289 and they're on the plain of Premier.
Known to those who travel to Cathay as the roof of the world.
The roof of the world?
Stop. Just stop. Ian makes a note of it for if he ever opens a pub. Later that night, Pink Cho wakes Susan to ask her where she's from, originally. Pink Cho reveals she's going to be married, even though she's only 16. Susan also claims to be 16, which is definitely a lie. Susan asks the most important question about Pink Cho's husband to be, is he hot? Turns out he's not. He's also 75 years old, which probably didn't seem that controversial at the BBC in the mid-60s, or 70s, or 80s, or 90s. Jesus Christ, Auntie Beeb! In another part of the tent, Marco and Tigana argue about what should be done with the travellers. Tigana still wants to kill them because they're evil spirits, and if there's one thing we can be sure about evil spirits, is that they're foreign as well. The next day, Marco, Ian and Barbara are looking over the TARDIS. Marco wants to know how it moves without wheels. Ian's explanation of through the air is enough to convince Marco, as he's been very impressed in the past by the 13th century's equivalent of Paul Daniels. He agrees to have it taken to their camp. Back at the camp, Marco tells the doctor that they must travel with them to Lop, and that no one must enter the TARDIS. The doctor agrees to this remarkably quickly. At Lop service station, Marco flashes his Khan-approved bling and they stash up on supplies. The doctor tries to get to the TARDIS to start his repairs, but is stopped by guards. Marco gives them a sob story worthy of a reality talent show.
My home is Venice. I left there with my father and my uncle to come to Cathay in 1271. The journey to Peking took us 3.5 years. When I arrived at the Khan's court, I was 21. I was an alert young man, good at languages, and willing to learn. The Khan liked me. On my 25th birthday, I was given an appointment in the Khan's service. Since then, I have traveled to every corner of his domain and beyond it. 2 years ago, my father, my uncle, and I asked the Khan for permission to go home. I have not seen my home for 18 years. I want to go back. I shall offer him a gift so magnificent that he will not be able to refuse me.
The Doctor finally loses the plot and starts laughing uncontrollably. Outside, Tigana takes some poison and tells his associate to follow them and wait 3 days before collecting the TARDIS.